Welcome to the March 2021 edition of the Cerini Nonprofit Connection. We do this every month to try to bring interesting topics to the nonprofit sector and interesting speakers to the nonprofit sector. Nonprofit organizations that work with often overlooked populations historically have had a tough time during strong markets to help find them jobs. With the COVID-19 pandemic wreaking havoc on businesses, there are significantly more people out of work, creating an almost impossible task of finding gainful employment for harder to employ workers. As a result, a lot of nonprofit organizations have started to turn to social entrepreneurism as a way to create opportunities and improve skill sets within their consumers. Today we have with us two special guests. We have Linda Berman from the Corporate Source and Michael Kitakis from Spirit of Huntington, and they're going to discuss their organization's decision to move to social entrepreneurism. So Linda and Michael, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Ken. We're both delighted to be here. I do want to apologize. I'm having some technical difficulties with my face appearing, but I flicker in and out. So I'll give everyone a quick wave, and then I'm going to just have my name there for now.
I can tell you my kids would love it if my face just disappeared. So.
Likewise with mine too.
Thank you, Ken, for having us.
Yes.
So anyway, before we get started, maybe you guys can briefly speak a little bit about your respective organizations, maybe a little bit about your mission, the population you serve, and what social entrepreneurism concept did you kind of incorporate? So Michael, if you want to start.
Sure. Again, thanks for having us, Ken. We appreciate coming on and sharing our mission and our vision. The Spirit of Art Center is a nonprofit organization. And we try to ignite the passion of our students with special needs and veterans for creative expression. And that does help transform their lives. We see it every day at the Art Center. You know, our center is built on a lot of love. Obviously, we try to foster problem solving and free expression that really does nurture and change, their lives, both through education and vocation training. We're a community resource first and foremost with fine art and expressive art. But what we were able to do is kind of transform that when we started to realize that the population that we served had such an alarming unemployment rate as high as 85%. Now with COVID, Ken, I think it's even in the 90s, where young adults with special needs aren't given the opportunity to work in the workplace. So we were able to create a program called Art Works, which is an innovative program that does personalized training by providing students and participants with skills and knowledge of digital art, not just the fine art. We started to realize that they had an aptitude to work on computer graphics and social media and building websites. And we were able to really embrace that into our center, teach them, the skill sets that they could do in the real world as well, and incorporate that into other nonprofits by helping out with their marketing and advertising and doing digital art for these groups. So we've been able to really work with social enterprise by kind of supporting other nonprofits and their mission and vision by helping communicate their message through our team, not just on the education side, but also by providing jobs for them after they've started to work through our program. So it's really been a win-win across the board.
And Mike, you don't just work with nonprofits, you work with for-profits too, right?
Yeah, anything with purpose-driven accounts, not that, and I always make the joke that there's anything wrong doing with the proverbial car ads, but we are trying to work with companies that have a purpose and that they really do try to help other organizations.
Great. And Linda, why don't you talk a little bit about what the Corporate Source is doing and what their mission is and how you've incorporated social entrepreneurism into your model?
Absolutely. Michael, you're a tough act to follow, and Spirit of Huntington Art Center is really a magical place. So the Corporate Source, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary this month, in fact, and we create employment opportunities for individuals with varying disabilities throughout New York City, Long Island, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we do that through our outsourcing contracts with federal, state, and private sector businesses, and we deliver, critical business needs while at the same time helping people, to include individuals with disabilities in their workplace. So we do things like total facilities management, janitorial services, mailroom operations. We even do kennel care, for example, at JFK Airport for the Department of Homeland Security. We do call center operations. We've expanded to, we have a mobile workforce that can come out on a weekly basis to companies far and wide across greater New York. And we, in the time of COVID, have expanded our disinfecting services. There's a real demand, of course, for that. So we've added scopes of work and developed and are looking for new, clients all the time for the electrostatic disinfecting services that we can deliver. And we do this almost completely with our fantastic workforce of individuals who may be on the autism spectrum. They might have hearing or sight impairment, other learning, developmental disabilities. People just need the opportunity to show what they can do, be included in a workplace. And we're really proud of what we do. And we've been doing it for 25 years under the amazing leadership of Michael Kramer, our CEO.
Awesome. I know we've been kind of kicking around the term social entrepreneurism, and maybe everybody might not really know what social entrepreneurism is, or it might mean different things to different people. Somebody want to kind of throw out a little bit of a definition or what social entrepreneurism means to you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I'll jump in there. So you're right, Ken. Sometimes, it's a little confusing about what it might be. It's called social entrepreneurism, social enterprise. Some people call it corporate social responsibility or collaboration, but it all leads to the same thing. It's from the corporate sources standpoint, we view social enterprise as a way to seek to maximize profits while maximizing benefits to society and the environment. So it's kind of a trifecta of impact, as we would call it, the triple bottom line. And you can have tremendous social impact along with being a profitable organization. And we do care about environmental components. For example, our cleaning supplies are rated SIMS with green building with honors for the green component. But we really focus, of course, on the social impact. And for us, it's really important, and for all companies. And I'll just share just a very quick survey that reported that less than half of people rank price as the most important attribute of hiring a business. More people rank a company's commitment to the environment, social responsibility, and giving back to the local community as the most important attributes of a business. So it's social enterprise is a way of doing good while also doing well for your business.
Right.
That's exactly what the corporate source is about. We deliver top-rated, needed business services at competitive prices using an outsourcing model. And we do this by employing our individuals with disabilities to fulfill work needs and provide a critical opportunity for them and employment equity in the process.
Michael, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think, for social enterprise, and especially for nonprofits, I think it's important that they realize it's okay to be in business. It seems that a lot of the groups we work with, and again, when you start defining mission, vision, and value statements for a company, when you're starting to work on their marketing and their digital art, advertising and art, a lot of the organizations we run into haven't really thought about their business plan. They haven't thought about how to really get that message out there of what they do and how they are doing it. So for us and our team at Artworks is we're really able to start to define how nonprofits can get out of the shell and not try to go from donation to donation every check to stay in business, but they can actually do things that are related to their mission. They can help support their mission and grow the organization so it's sustainable, repeatable, and scalable income. And I think that's an important issue for a lot of nonprofits that aren't really thinking about it in that business sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and you both touched on certain things. Linda, I think, you were talking about the triple bottom line. And, when you think about that triple bottom line, it's PPP, people, planet, profit. And I think that's the order that you would put it into, where profit is important, but it's not necessarily the most important aspect of it. It's how do I, impact all three of them overall. And then, Michael, you were talking about, being a business, and it really comes down to that blurring of the lines between the for-profit and the nonprofit sectors, where the nonprofit sector takes on a lot of the attributes and skill sets that are incorporated into the business community. And conversely, businesses start looking at things more socially, and going back to Linda, the social responsibility that you talked about. So I think, that's kind of where that social enterprise kind of crosses or acts as a bridge between the nonprofit and for-profit sectors, which I think is important.
I think also, Ken, is the alliances that the nonprofits are working with the for-profit companies, and you were the one that really preached that all out to us, and really, opened up a lot of people's eyes, because I think it's no longer just, hey, spend $5,000 and support that golf outing, and then get very little out of it as far as that social imprint and that connection with the charity. But by partnering up with organizations and by working together on services and messaging, it really does become a win-win for both organizations.
Yeah, it's that two-way street, and it's creating that two-way street. Yep.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's right. What Michael said is so true. It's all about partnership and collaboration. And Ken, you have a great example with Cerini and Associates and the work you do with the Book Fairies, an organization I particularly love. I'm all into literacy, and Eileen and Amy there do a fantastic job with your partnership. I think that there are so many opportunities for businesses to collaborate with a nonprofit that might resonate with them, whether it's disability inclusion for the corporate source, or arts expression and employment also for Michael Kitakis at Spirit of Huntington Arts Center. Go to something that resonates with your own company's corporate social responsibility objectives. So like you said, Ken, it would be a win-win situation, that a company is accomplishing its objectives, and at the same time, working with a local or national nonprofit to really further everyone's goals.
Yeah, and this goes back to, Linda, what you had said before about, when people are picking a company to work with, they're not necessarily looking at for the lowest price. They're looking at some of those other intangibles, such as, how does the company give back to the community? How does, what's the company's social responsibility? And again, I think this all plays. And I think if nonprofits, as they're going through and developing relationships with the for-profit businesses, they need to kind of keep all of those things in mind, so that they can help businesses to kind of add purpose to their mission.
Yes, definitely purpose-driven. And very often it's the differentiating factor for a customer to decide, whether to buy from company A or company B, or for potential employees to look at a company and decide if they want to work for that company. And that's a huge element. Companies want to be attractive to potential candidates as well as potential customers. And the message that they lead with on who they are and the values they hold are really key.
I think it's important that everyone defines those values the right way. That's like a lot of times with the groups that we work with, and it can be some of the largest nonprofits out there, but sometimes they're just not clear on their mission, vision, and value statements. And if you're not really clear on that, it's hard to even expand on that to say, oh, we're going to have these types of services or products that might support the mission that we can expand into social enterprise with. So, I think it's really important. And it's not just the nonprofits. It could be, the Fortune 500 companies. And when I used to run advertising agencies, the very first thing you always stop and look at, which is, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? And who are they doing it for? And some of those basic things aren't really answered a lot in, in the communication that goes out there for these organizations, which is why go ahead.
So I was going to say, so let's kind of go back to, you both started up business ventures, and did you set them up as separate legal entities within your organization, or they're just part of the organization itself in terms of its mission?
Well, for us, it falls into our mission, obviously, that we are igniting passion for our students and for our participants. And we were able to expand that into education, with some vocation training. And by moving them into that, that realm, we were able to stay in our mission without having to set up a separate corp.
Okay, and
Yeah.
Linda, did you set up a separate corp or you're all part of the same?
Well, for the corporate source, we've always been a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So for us, social enterprise is part of our very fabric. We've always been set up to create employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities. And in order to do that, we work with customers with contracts throughout, federal and state and private sector contracts to do that. So we're a little bit different in that we were set up and have, that's how we operate, is always as a nonprofit, with our mission, and everything we do is focused on the question of how can we create more employment opportunity for individuals with disabilities? What sectors can we get into? What partnerships can we make? What expanded businesses can we, to do for customers? So for us, we've always focused on social enterprise in helping businesses do good for their bottom line while doing well, for that triple bottom line.
Right. So when I know that some nonprofit organizations have set up separate components of their business, whether it be an LLC or some other component of their business to kind of run this. But let's kind of move on. I mean, it's never easy to start a business. And for both of you, it sounds like this was kind of a natural outcropping of where you found yourself with the nature of what you're looking to do. But I got to believe it's even harder to start a business in the nonprofit world and even with, the populations that you're kind of working with. What are some of the greatest obstacles, hurdles that you had to overcome, as part of this whole thing of kind of moving into the world of social entrepreneurism?
I think for us, we've realized that the obstacles of, again, running a for-profit are very similar to the nonprofit. Obviously, cash flow, income, the way it comes in, the debits, the way they go out. But more importantly, it's coming up with a solid business plan that meets the needs of the organization and something that's been supported in the right way with the clientele. In our case, we were embraced by all the nonprofits out there, and the ability to partner up, whether it was, with an Access VR on getting support and, employment opportunities, or whether it was getting students coming in from other organizations that had a propensity to work in, in digital art. All of these things started to grow because of the relationships, which is really the same thing in regular business as well. It's how are you fostering and nurturing those relationships to grow the organization to meet the needs. Obviously, we've all been challenged with the pandemic, but even in that situation, being able to expand into the digital art that we've been doing for the last couple of years and being able to stay in that digital environment, it was a natural outcropping of our mission and vision to kind of fulfill it through, online programming. But as the world is starting to begin to open back up, all of those relationships and all these other groups that we had been teaching classes with for fine art, they were very excited and embraced us to work on the digital art and digital aspect of their organization to help with their mission and vision and sending it out there to the world. So I think there's a lot of similarities both in the profit world and nonprofit as far as setting up a group and making it work,
Right. Linda?
Yeah, Ken, that's a great question about what objections need to be, sort of addressed and overcome to encourage other companies to increase their social enterprise efforts. For the corporate source, the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, passed, 30 years ago, 1990. And that's wonderful, but its impact on employment, disability employment, has only been a 1% change. That's it over the past 30 years.
That's crazy.
So, although people want to do the right thing, society hasn't quite caught up and made the leap into full integration and acceptance yet. And businesses really have to embrace this, starting with leadership at the very top, plus board buy-in as well. The disability population, very often doesn't have a voice of its own. And in hiring, people face a lot of bias and misperception. Someone may not thrive on a traditional interview, but in a behavioral interview where you're able to show what you can do as opposed to tell what you can do, people do much better. And, a lot of, businesses may think it might be too costly to include people with disabilities or that they won't perform as well. But experience proves completely otherwise. Customers receive great service. They see tremendous strengths of workers with disabilities, including things like tremendous dependability and punctuality, trustworthiness and productivity, and most importantly, a genuine appreciation just to have the opportunity to work and join the world of work and make those friendships and all the things that work gives to all of us, meaning and purpose in life. Companies to really need to share their own success stories of disability inclusion where they can and be influencers for others to lead the way to this, essential change.
So again, from you kind of touched on one thing there, Linda. You talked about board buy-in and stuff. I mean, how
Yes.
receptive was your board when you actually turned around and said to them, "Hey, I want to start a business"?
Right. Well, our board is tremendously supportive and provides guidance based on their experience and their, most of our board members have a personal connection to our mission. And Michael, I'm sure you find the same in your nonprofit organization. People tend to volunteer, and board members are your ultimate volunteers. People tend to spend their greatest asset, their time, with causes that are meaningful and resonate with them. So we've always had board buy-in. Our TCS corporate chair, Jerry Blaine of LDI Color Toolbox, is tremendously supportive of our work. And it's very important to have buy-in at the very top levels of your company, whether that's executive staff or your board support.
I think some boards are more open to it than others, but I think we always are challenged with staying within the guidelines and the rules of the nonprofit sector. So, for us, it's always been that making sure that we're compliant with our mission and staying in that world of. And people like Ken are great soundboards for finding that information out. But I think overall, being able to employ students or participants in any program is a challenge for every organization. So, I think Ned just saw someone in the chat was asking about education and how to best work with that population. For us, we've been able to take our students who are in our program learning about digital art, bringing them into an environment where they're working on real actual projects, real websites, real brochures, teaching them the soft skills because they all have the hard skills. In fact, the devotion is probably 10 times greater than when I even had a conventional advertising agency with different types of employees. So for us, it's been so impressive about the commitment, like Linda said, to what they're trying to do and to what our participants are involved in. So we're so excited to give them that opportunity to work on real work, which in turn then opens up for that organization. So for example, Cerebral Palsy Association of Nassau County is one of our clients. We're working on a rebrand of their entire company, launching of a new website, new brochures, new corporate ID. But they're working with not just our full-time team, but also our students. And they're starting to make connections there. And then it opens the door where our students will be able to hopefully one day get employment in a lot of our partners. So, it's getting them used to working in these environments, training the students and training the participants so that when they're in the real world, they're able to really adapt well,
Yeah, that brings up a couple different points here. One of the things that I think you both kind of touched on early on through this is that you guys have gone into a business structure and you've incorporated your consumers into what you're doing so that it really becomes part of your mission. So it really isn't a separate business venture. Well, it's a separate business venture, but it's part of what you're trying to accomplish as a mission. But there are some nonprofit organizations that do set up business structures and stuff that maybe aren't working with the populations they serve and stuff. So it does really become a separate business venture for them, where now it is a situation where they are somewhat maybe competing with the for-profit world, which then subjects them to unrelated business and unrelated business income tax. For what you're doing, since it's part of your mission, it's not subject to UBIT, so you don't have to worry about that. So you do have this whole other piece of this where, if you're getting into a business, you do have to, as a nonprofit, you still have to look to see how much energy and how much effort it's going to take. If it's going to be a significant amount of the overall energy, it could impact your nonprofit status, and there could be some unrelated business income tax that's due on it. So again, you mentioned before that, the board wants to make sure that, that you're doing this the right way. And so there are some little traps that organizations need to think about. The other thing, Michael, you mentioned was, customers. And obviously customers are the lifeblood to any business. What have you guys been doing in terms of going out there and trying to find customers, cultivate customers, and how receptive has the environment been to you guys?
For us, it's an eye opener. I mean, coming from the for-profit world for the last 20 something years of my life, moving into the nonprofit sector, I was almost suspicious of the amount of support that was coming in. In the old days, it's like, why are you calling me? What do you actually want? Because they were actually hearing about us, that we were working with organizations, that we were helping companies, with communication, digital art, that we were employing, young adults with special needs. So it just got out there because of the tightness of this community in the nonprofit world, and for organizations like Cerini and the Imagine Awards and all the great things that has been out there to help support us. But I think customers, all want to help. I mean, obviously the nonprofit sector, they're all, ready to jump in, but even in our profit world, they see the purpose, they see the value that by partnering up with an organization like us or any other nonprofit and really combining forces to do whatever those services and products may be that you can offer to help those organizations, they all want to be a part of it. I think at the end of the day, it helps them, with their social footprint, like we talked about earlier. But I think communication is always difficult for any business, and whether it's social media, whether it's, doing the networking and getting out there and telling your story and being that, giving that testimony of what you're all about is the key to expanding the mission.
Yeah,
Linda,
and I
how have you
agree
been
with Michael. I mean, isn't that the question for us all? How do you attract and retain customers? And for the nonprofit sector, our customers are the people we serve and the mission we are trying to fulfill. So how can we're constantly looking to identify and work with other nonprofit organizations and for-profit businesses to deliver our outsourcing services. But when you're looking to how companies can better support other nonprofits, including the Corporate Source and Spirit of Huntington Arts Center, I think people can look to do three easy things to increase their own social enterprise effectiveness. One is by hiring more people with varying disabilities directly for the open positions you might have in your company. Ken, you had mentioned about bookkeeping, and that's an excellent point. There's a lot of roles that people can fulfill if they're just given the opportunity to work in your mailroom, to help with messenger services, to help with your website. There's lots of opportunities. Companies take a look at what help they need and turn to an organization that has a social mission that you also want to help fulfill. So one is hiring people directly. Another is collaborating with other organizations and businesses that make disability inclusion an essential part of their business philosophy. So you can hire someone like Michael and his team to update your website, or you can hire the Corporate Source to help fulfill mailroom operations, for example. Even if you can't hire directly, perhaps you can hire outsourcing services to get that business function done. And the third is really by increasing your supplier diversity as well. All of us have vendors that we work with, that we pay for the products and services that we need for our businesses. So really to take a look at your supply chain and focus on diversity there as well. So that's what I would suggest in terms of supporting social enterprise. And something that one of you mentioned also about soft skills, Michael, I think that was you, about soft skills trainings. That's a wonderful opportunity for companies to offer internships and jobs to help people develop those soft skills. You learn on the job. You learn working surrounded by other coworkers, and I'm sure that Michael, you also have a wonderful training program. We have a vocational rehabilitation services team at the corporate source that prepares people for employment and individual workplace responsibilities. But we also partner with the clients we serve and help with the soft skills development. It's all about partnership.
Yep, I agree. Do you believe, either of you, do you believe that being a nonprofit social enterprise is an advantage or a disadvantage? Or does it not really matter?
I think it's a huge advantage. I
Yes,
mean,
absolutely.
I think from the world, again, only because I've run organizations in both sectors, I just think that the love and support that's in, the nonprofit sector is just unmatched. And it's amazing how everybody wants to really, really help. And whether it's anything from bookkeeping to ads to doing mailroom, I mean, all these great groups that are out there that all want to support, I think that's invaluable. I also think that the tightness of the community for some of the networking and stuff like we're doing right now, that being on these calls, learning about what's out there, learning that there's opportunities for your business to partner up with groups like us are so important. And that, I don't think that was as prevalent out there as it is here in the nonprofit world. Plus, I just think that the for-profit world is understanding the value of partnering up with the other organizations that, like us, that make sense. And I think that's growing. I think there's a movement towards that, especially with all the things that have happened in the last year or so.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what Michael just said. And we love to work with nice people. We love to work with people who are altruistic and so on. But social enterprise is not altruism. It's smart business. It's smart because companies that utilize social enterprise, they see much higher employee retention, more brand loyalty, higher profits, all benchmarks of successful business. So it's not like you have to make a choice between being a good person or working with a nice nonprofit. You can do those things and at the same time make strategic business decisions that will increase your bottom line while at the same time helping you employ, for example, individuals with disabilities. So I see it as a huge advantage to be in a social enterprise model.
Can we put things in maybe a little in perspective? Like how big is your social enterprise, either in terms of number of staff that you employ or revenue or whatever? If you can give it some sort of perspective or percentage of your budget or something.
We have 12 employees. We have probably another 10 or so volunteers plus the board. So, the power of the group, although we're small on the smaller size, but we still are able to kind of bring together 30 or 40 strong pairs of hands to help support the mission and the vision. So,
and that's within the social enterprise, or that's within the entire organization?
That's within the entire organization.
What about the social enterprise piece?
Most of that is actually for the social enterprise piece, because that takes the most labor and that takes the most, throughput to put it in there. The volunteers tend to be more on the education side for teachers, and that's that other 10, let's call it, teachers that we're able to work with, although we have some on staff. But for the most part, a lot of the heavier labor costs come into the social enterprise aspect.
And Linda, how about you? How big is the social enterprise?
Well, for the corporate source, social enterprise is our model. So there's no corporate source outside of that. Our focus is on creating employment opportunities through our outsourcing services. And so it's a social enterprise model. We employ nearly 400 people across New York City, Long Island, and the Caribbean. And we, more than 85% of our direct labor hours are fulfilled by people with disabilities, a very wide range of disabilities. And we have a very small staff of project managers who oversee employees, a vocational rehab team that's so dynamic in recruiting and identifying the skills and interests of people and placing them and coaching and encouraging them. And then, of course, we have, our financial team and that kind of thing. But we have very, very small administration and a lot of great folks who receive encouragement, day to day through their work. And we're really proud of our workforce. We've had people with us for the 25 years since our founding in 1996. People don't just want a job; they want a career. They want career growth. They want the things that work leads to, like being able to buy a car or your first home, live independently, have a friendship circle, even volunteer back to your community. So we see employment as a means to an end. Work creates meaning and purpose. Ken, I think you mentioned a purpose-driven life.
Mhm.
And that's really essential. I mean, how do we want to be remembered when all is said and done in our lives? We want to feel that we made an impact, both personally and through our work lives.
Great. So in running your social enterprise, it sounds like, they're both somewhat mature in terms of how long they've been around. Um, what's kind of changed over the years, and how has your organization or your social enterprise evolved over the years? And what direction are you looking to take it to going forward?
Well, that's a great question. We're always looking to see where we can expand. And I did mention that we added electrostatic disinfecting equipment so that we could provide disinfecting services to meet the demand as businesses reemerge from COVID. We are also looking into down the road information technology careers. We added a mobile workforce a couple years ago to address the transportation constraints some of our folks sometimes face. If somebody works at a work site that's outside of a bus route's normal hours or the bus route itself, well, then transportation becomes an enormous obstacle if a person doesn't have a car. So we created our mobile workforce model for some of our contracts to help address getting people to and from work sites. So we're always looking to adapt to business needs as well as internal needs. And, we always look to the future wherever, we like to say we recruit to task. We try very hard not to say no. If a company comes to us and has a business need, we work with nearly 50 collaborative agencies and schools across Long Island and New York City and the Caribbean to find candidates who stand ready, willing, and able to fulfill that work function. So the more opportunities we can develop with the communities we serve, both internally and externally, the better we all do.
Awesome. Michael?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't brag on my team and my students for 2 minutes. And I think the best thing is just to show you a quick snapshot of two things
cool.
they worked on. And it's really cool because what happens with this team, and this is again the Artworks team, is that there is a lot of potential for designers, web designers, and you can see some of the numbers there of the amount of employment that we're anticipating between 11,000, 24,000, 6,000. This is a growing, opportunity for our participants to be a part of it. And they're going to learn from, again, we talked about this, that experiential learning. What's so exciting though is when you actually start to see what they're working on, and this is at the student level because they're actually learning in real stuff. But then there are opportunities of working on real clients, and these are just some of the logos that they've worked on. For example, between the Audubon Society and Ashling Forest School and C, these are all great nonprofit organizations that they've actually helped work on the branding. here's Cerebral Palsy Association. This is their new logo and their new brand. We're very proud that's actually launching the next couple days. And it's all about tying in a brand and a feeling, you know, moving forward with you is the new tagline that we came up with, because they have a program called Move that helps their students with their disabilities. So we were excited to do that. And then that rolls into the corporate ID. You can see how it works and how they did their business cards for this particular client. And then when we were doing the branding for Seed, it was coming up with this mosaic feeling and then applying it to all of their events and their event marketing. So we're able to do the posters and the posts and the ads, and you can see how the brand, you know, is staying consistent and has true brand essence, you know. And then we ultimately do the websites and blogs. So whether it's a for-profit like an Aldborough or the Audubon Society, or even, you know, St. Francis, the church that we work with, all of these groups are able to buy into our programs that we offer. And I think for us, it's about expanding, going into email, going into other opportunities for the clients to expand their messaging. And these groups that we work with, if we help them transform their business, we help those nonprofits create their stories, and it is always about storytelling and getting that story out there, then we help the difference by making their mission come true. So it just keeps giving back, and that's really the power of what we're doing, you know. But that's a quick snapshot. I mean, for us, it's always about how to expand into more services, how to get, you know, the programs up there to reach more you know, students to come into the program so they learned about the opportunities, because, you know, in this particular sector for communication, it's everything from social media to video to this. It's a huge field, and we see that, and we see that a lot of our students with special needs kind of gravitate to this type of a field because they can work within it. Not every field is open, let's say, for, you know, certain, you know, aspects of population, but for our population, man, they excel in it. You know, they're able to kind of go inside, do their programming and do their design, and come back and really, you know, feel all the kudos and accolades when it gets out there. So we're extremely proud of our team. We feel like it's not settling at all. In fact, in our world, I think it's the best team out there for doing digital art. And I'll hold this up to any advertising agency that's for profit or nonprofit. So, you know, those are the things that get exciting for us, because you start giving people the opportunity to grow, and you give them the love, and it just blossoms. And that's what we see every day.
I was gonna say, I saw your statistics and stuff, and some of the stuff that's cool. There's the whole computer science area, and the gaming opens up a lot more opportunities for developing applications and everything else for the consumers you're working with.
100%. So that's where I think the future is. I think, listen, we're all living in a digital world. We are doing storytelling. Even more important than ever now is that if you are working with groups like us, you should be telling that story too. You know, when you do, you know, partner up with things, put it out there in social media. Tell about all the great, you know, vendors like Linda was talking about. If you are working with that particular population, you know, you got to tell your story too. And that's the most important part.
That storytelling component, I agree, Michael. Storytelling is essential. People really want to know, they want to hear how someone's life has been affected, that somebody has gone on to wonderful things because they've been included in the work world. And another way that businesses can work with nonprofits such as Michael's and mine are to think about how you can provide those, you know, internships, or provide anything that will allow others to see the value in others, to get in front of other people, such as in networking programs like this, or any kind of speaking engagements. And one other thing you mentioned, Michael and Ken, about remote work settings, the jobs of the future, the jobs of the present, also really lend themselves to working with a lot of organizations who may work with individuals with disabilities. It overcomes the transportation challenge, for example, or some other accessibility challenges. And so many jobs like information technology and digital design are perfect fits for the talents of individuals with varying abilities.
Awesome. So when you guys were kind of looking at the direction you wanted to move in with your business venture, I mean, there's so many cool social enterprises out there.
Mhm,
You've got Grayston Bakery, who makes all the fudge brownies for Ben and Jerry's fudge
mhm.
brownie ice cream. You've got, South Fork Bakery for the special needs, which employs, similar to you guys, the DD population out on the east end of Long Island in a bakery.
Mhm.
What made you, I'm sorry, what aspects of some of the things that some of these other organizations are doing did you look at and say, hey, that was really cool? And kind of what did you learn from some of the models that are out there?
Well, you just mentioned South Fork Bakery, and they are such a great example. For people who may not have heard of them, um, a trained culinary master, Shirley, I can't remember her last name now. She works out of Sag Harbor, and she runs a bakery that hires all individuals with disabilities, and they make the most delicious cookies and cupcakes and so on. So they're great for, corporate gifts or, anything. So when you're thinking of baked goods, why not go to a bakery that is also training people for the culinary profession and employing individuals with disabilities. And that is a great example of doing good while doing well. You get amazing baked goods from South Fork Bakery, and you also have that wonderful feeling that you are hiring and you are supporting individuals who want so much to show what they can do if just given the opportunity.
I agree. I think I don't think people realize when you're looking at 90% unemployment rates. I mean, that's almost don't even want to get out of bed moments in life.
Mhm.
And, we're trying to promote and bring awareness to this. We have a campaign called hashtag Find Your Spirit, where we're reaching out to all young individuals with disabilities to say, hey, how are you guys doing? What can we do to help? Hey, did you know that there's this resource, that resource? Did you learn about this? Maybe doing some webinars, teaching them about all the issues that they're facing to get it back into the employment game. But I think that if given the opportunity, I think everyone would be impressed about what's out there and how they can help, not just in these menial tasks, but also in very difficult things and very opportune moments of, defining whether it's communication or whether it's bookkeeping or all these other things we talked about today. There really is no limit to anyone. I just think people need to understand that there is some, I don't want to call it discrimination, but there's definitely some areas of concern that it's not getting out there enough, and we want to bring light to that.
Right. And if we can emphasize one thing the most, at least from the perspective of the corporate source, is to take a look at the business services that you already need, and take a look and say, are there organizations that could fulfill this need for an updated website or for call center operations, for example? Is there an organization that also would help us fulfill our CSR and social enterprise efforts? I mean, another company that just came to mind is Spectrum Design in
Yep.
Port Washington.
Another good
And
one.
they're celebrating their 10th anniversary, and they're a wonderful another wonderful example. You need promotional, tchotchkes to give away at networking events, or you want a corporate gift to thank, your customers. Why not turn to an organization like Spectrum that employs individuals with disabilities and provides great products? They're one of our vendors, and we love them.
Right. No,
Great,
I agree.
great example.
So we're basically out of time. We've actually run over a few minutes. So Linda and Michael, I
Lucky
really
talkers, that's
appreciate.
why.
You got two
I
yucky
think
dogs. That's why.
you guys did great. This was amazing. So I really, really appreciate it. And again, I believe social entrepreneurism is an important component of the future of the sector. So I think this was both timely and great. So I really, really appreciate your time. Everybody, thank you for participating. Just to tell you about a couple upcoming events. We're not going to have a CNC for next month. Instead, we're going to be revisiting our audit committee boot camp. It was a 3-part webinar series designed to help audit committee members effectively understand and fulfill their many roles and responsibilities. So we are having a series of 3 events that's going to be looking at typical tasks of the audit committee with a special focus on working with external auditors, your internal staff, and everything else. So feel free to register. Go to our website at sereniassociates.com for that. And then don't forget the 9th annual Imagine Awards is going to be, unfortunately, a virtual event again this year, but that's going to be taking place on Tuesday, April 27th from 5 to 7:30. There'll be a quote unquote cocktail event where you'll be able to network with other people, and you'll be able to see the winners of the Imagine Awards live on the event. So come get tickets. You can go to imagineawardsli.com. And if you're in New York City, don't forget the New York City Imagine Awards, our first ever. The applications are live, which you can go to imagineawards.com to download the application. So again, I want to thank everybody for participating. Stay safe, and we'll see you next month at the Audit Committee Boot Camp. Thanks again, Michael and Linda.
Ken.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ken.
Take care.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So long, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.